let's talk about a topic that for far too long has been shrouded in mystery, misinformation, and, let's be honest, a little bit of performance anxiety. We're here to shift that conversation from myth to fact, from guesswork to understanding. The title of our talk tonight is Provocative: Scientifically Proven Sex Positions to Make Her Climax. Now, I need to start with a crucial disclaimer. The most important sex organ is not between the legs, it's between the ears, the brain. No position, no matter how scientifically validated, will work without the foundation of trust, communication, and mutual desire. So let's reframe that title. Think of it instead as using science to understand female anatomy for mutual pleasure. Science gives us a map, but you and your partner are the explorers. The single most important scientific fact we must internalize is this: over 80% of women require direct clitoral stimulation to achieve orgasm. This isn't an opinion, it's a biological reality. The clitoris has one purpose and one purpose only: pleasure. So, any proven position is, at its core, a position that provides consistent, satisfying clitoral contact. With that in mind, let's look at the techniques that research and anatomy support. The primacy of clitoral stimulation, the foundational principle for facilitating female climax, is an understanding of clitoral anatomy and its primary role in orgasm. Scientifically, the clitoris is a complex organ, with the glands the external, visible part containing over 8,000 sensory nerve endings, more than any other part of the human body, and dedicated solely to pleasure. Internally, its structure extends in a wishbone shape, encircling the vaginal canal. This anatomy reveals a crucial fact. What is often perceived as internal sensation is frequently the stimulation of these internal clitoral structures. Therefore, the goal of any effective sexual position is not to bypass the clitoris, but to engage its entire network through either direct external pressure or internal pressure that arouses the surrounding tissue. This biological reality is directly reflected in orgasm statistics. Numerous studies, including large-scale research published in journals like the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy, consistently show that a significant majority of women, often cited as over 80%, do not achieve orgasm from vaginal penetration alone. This data decisively debunks the common, media-perpetuated myth that intercourse itself is the primary vehicle for female climax. Instead, it highlights that for most women, orgasm is a result of focused clitoral stimulation, with penetration often serving as a pleasurable complement rather than the main event. Consequently, the design and intention behind scientifically proven positions must prioritize this mechanism. Effective positions are those that either allow for consistent manual or toy-based stimulation during penetration, or are engineered so that the mechanics of the act itself create rhythmic pressure on the clitoris. This shifts the focus from deep thrusting to shallower, grinding-oriented motions that maximize contact between the partner's pubic areas. For instance, positions that allow for a rocking motion facilitate this grinding far more effectively than those designed for deep, linear thrusting. Ultimately, embracing this principle transforms the approach to mutual pleasure. It moves the objective away from a performance-oriented goal of achieving orgasm through a specific act and towards a collaborative, communicative experience focused on sensation. Understanding the primacy of the clitoris empowers partners to explore a wider variety of techniques, incorporate hands and toys freely, and reduce the pressure associated with intercourse, thereby creating a more intimate, effective, and satisfying pathway to climax. The role of the Coital Alignment Technique, CATE, the Coital Alignment Technique, often referred to as SAY or angled missionary, is arguably the most rigorously studied and scientifically supported position for facilitating female orgasm during intercourse. Its development was a direct response to the understanding that most women require consistent clitoral stimulation, and it was designed to systematically incorporate this stimulation into the act of penetration itself. Unlike traditional missionary, which prioritizes deep thrusting, CATE is engineered to maximize clitoral contact through a precise alignment of the partner's bodies, making it a technique rather than just a position. The biomechanics of CATE are its defining feature. The partner on top shifts their entire body upward, so that the base of their penis and pubic bone are positioned to make firm, direct contact with the clitoris of the partner beneath. This requires a subtle but crucial adjustment. The penetrating partner's body is positioned higher, often with their chest closer to their partner's neck, which angles the pelvis to create the specific point of contact. The penetration is typically shallower, focusing on the first third of the vaginal canal, which is richest in nerve endings and closely connected to the internal clitoral structures. The motion involved is the most significant departure from conventional intercourse. Instead of a vigorous in and out thrusting pattern, the movement in cat is a gentle, rhythmic, rocking or grinding motion. The partners move together in a synchronized figure 8 or circular pattern, maintaining constant pressure and friction on the clitoris. This sustained contact is the key to its effectiveness, as it mimics the steady stimulation that is most effective for clitoral orgasm. Much like the action of manual or oral stimulation, research has consistently validated its efficacy. A landmark study, published in the Journal of Sex Research, found that women who were introduced to the Coital Alignment Technique reported a significant increase in the frequency of orgasm during intercourse compared to their previous experiences with other positions. The study concluded that CAT's success is directly attributable to its design, which successfully combines clitoral stimulation with vaginal penetration in a way that other common positions do not. However, mastering kite requires patience, communication, and a lack of performance pressure. It is a technique that demands teamwork and verbal feedback to find the perfect alignment and rhythm that works for a specific couple. Partners must communicate openly about pressure, angle, and speed, treating it as a collaborative exploration rather than a goal-oriented task. This necessary communication itself can enhance intimacy and reduce anxiety, which are critical psychological components for achieving orgasm. Ultimately, the coital alignment technique is more than just a position. It is a testament to the application of scientific understanding to intimate relationships. It represents a move away from phallocentric models of sex and towards a more inclusive, anatomy-based approach to mutual pleasure. By prioritizing the clitoris and redesigning intercourse around its stimulation, Tate provides a practical, research-backed method for helping many women achieve climax during partnered sex. Leveraging anatomy with shallow angles, the pursuit of female orgasm has often been mistakenly equated with deep penetration, a myth perpetuated by mainstream media and a fundamental misunderstanding of female anatomy. Scientifically, this focus is misplaced. The area of the vagina richest in nerve endings is concentrated in the outer third, closest to the opening, a region known as the orgasmic platform. This shallow zone, particularly the front anterior vaginal wall, is where the internal structures of the clitoris, the crura, extend and where the highly sensitive G-spot, believed to be part of the clitoral network, is located. Effective sex positions, therefore, are those that prioritize stimulating this shallow, nerve-dense region rather than pursuing depth. This anatomical understanding directly informs the design of effective positions. Techniques like placing a firm pillow under the woman's hips during missionary or employing positions that naturally limit deep penetration, such as spooning, are not about restriction but about precision. They angle the penis or toy to make consistent and firm contact with the anterior wall of the vagina. This targeted pressure stimulates the internal clitoral structures and the G-spot area, creating a sensation that is often described as more full and electric compared to the often duller sensation of deep thrusting. The shallow approach is a paradigm shift from a performance model to a sensory model of sex. Deep penetration, while feeling pleasurable and filling for some, often provides less targeted stimulation to the key nerve centers and can sometimes even be uncomfortable or painful if it leads to cervical contact. By contrast, shallow, grinding motions allow for sustained pressure on the areas that matter most. This motion facilitates a build-up of sensation that is crucial for orgasm, rather than the intermittent stimulation of a deep, thrusting technique. The modified missionary position with a hip elevation is a prime example of this principle in action. The simple act of placing a pillow underneath the hips creates a significant change in pelvic tilt. This slight angle is often all that is needed to redirect the path of penetration from aiming toward the cervix to instead rubbing along the sensitive anterior wall. This transforms the motion from a piston-like action into a more effective grinding one, where the pubic bones of both partners can also maintain better contact, adding external clitoral stimulation. Similarly, the woman on top position excels because it provides ultimate control over this shallow angle. She can finally adjust her position, leaning forward, sitting upright, or leaning back, to find the exact point where the penetration feels most stimulating against her anterior wall. She can control the depth and the rhythm, ensuring the stimulation is consistent and precisely where she needs it to be, all while being able to grind her clitoris against her partner's pubic bone for combined internal and external stimulation. Even a position like doggy style, often associated with deep penetration, can be adapted to leverage shallow angles. By having the receiving partner lower their chest to the bed, arching their back less, and having the penetrating partner kneeling more upright and closer, the angle of entry is changed. This modification can shift the focus from deep penetration to shallower, more targeted stimulation of the anterior wall, proving that it is the mechanics and intention behind a position, not just its name, that determines its effectiveness. The profound benefit of this shallow angle philosophy is that it democratizes the ability to create powerful orgasms. It moves away from a focus on penis size, as effective stimulation is achieved in the first few inches, and instead prioritizes technique, communication, and anatomical knowledge. It empowers couples to understand that the most powerful sensations are often found not in traveling a long distance, but in applying precise pressure in a very specific and wonderfully shallow location. Ultimately, leveraging shallow angles is about working in harmony with the body's design. It is a scientific and respectful approach to intimacy that prioritizes the quality of contact over a quantitative measure of depth. By understanding that the epicenter of vaginal pleasure is located at the entrance, partners can focus their efforts more effectively, leading to more reliable, intense, and satisfying experiences that are engineered for climax. The crucial element of communication, the term, scientifically proven, can, unfortunately, create a misleading impression that sexual satisfaction can be achieved through a simple, formulaic instruction manual. It suggests that if one simply executes position A or technique B with mechanical precision, a guaranteed result will follow. This is perhaps the most dangerous misunderstanding one can take from this topic. In reality, the science of sexual response unequivocally shows that human arousal and orgasm are not purely physiological processes. They are deeply psychological experiences. The most effective technique in the world will fail in an atmosphere of performance anxiety, misunderstanding, or emotional disconnection. Therefore, communication is not merely a helpful add-on. It is the essential conduit through which any physical technique becomes effective. Scientific data on sexual response provides the what, the anatomical maps and physiological mechanisms, but communication provides the how and the where for each unique individual. Every person's body is a unique landscape of sensitivity. What feels like intense pleasure for one woman might be uncomfortable pressure or mere tickling for another. The precise location, pressure, and rhythm required for climax are highly individualized variables that no generalized study can predict. Therefore, the scientific data must be seen as a starting point for exploration, a hypothesis to be tested, rather than a definitive prescription. The couple themselves become the researchers in their own private laboratory of pleasure. This transforms the dynamic from performance to partnership. Without communication, the pursuit of a proven position can become a source of immense pressure, where one partner feels tasked with achieving a result and the other feels like a problem to be solved. This pressure is a known libido killer and one of the most common inhibitors of orgasm. Open dialogue dismantles this pressure frame by frame. It redefines the goal from achieving orgasm to exploring sensation together. This shift is critical as it makes pleasure and connection the immediate goals, with orgasm a potential beautiful byproduct rather than a demanded outcome. Verbal communication during intimacy doesn't need to be clinical or awkward. It can be integrated seamlessly and erotically. It can be as simple as guiding a partner's hand with your own and whispering right there, or little softer. It can be using directional language like or, down, slower, or harder. It can be the use of moans and breaths as positive reinforcement, signaling what feels good. This real-time feedback loop is the most efficient system for ensuring that stimulation is effective and mutually enjoyable, preventing the all-too-common scenario where one partner continues an ineffective action in silence. The conversation must also extend beyond the bedroom. The post-game analysis, conducted in a neutral, comfortable setting like over coffee or on a walk, is where deeper learning occurs. This is where partners can ask questions like, "What did you enjoy most last night?" Or, "I was trying that thing with the pillow. Did that feel good?" Or, "Is there anything you'd like to try differently?" These conversations remove the pressure of the moment and build a shared vocabulary and understanding that makes in-the-moment communication easier and more intuitive over time. Furthermore, communication is the vehicle for establishing and maintaining consent and comfort, which are the non-negotiable foundations of any sexual activity that can lead to climax. A woman cannot relax into orgasm if she feels unsafe, rushed, checking in with phrases like, "This okay?" or "How does this feel?" does not break the mood. It builds the essential trust that allows the mood to flourish. This creates a psychological safety net where she can let go of her inhibitions and fully surrender to sensation, which is a prerequisite for orgasm for many. This process also democratizes pleasure and dismantles the archaic idea that one partner is solely responsible for the other's satisfaction. It makes pleasure a collaborative project. When both partners feel empowered to voice their desires and preferences, it alleviates the burden of mind, reading, and guesswork. It fosters a sense of teamwork where both individuals are active, engaged architects of the shared experience, rather than one being a passive recipient and the other a frantic performer. The style of communication is also key. It should be framed positively, focusing on what is desired rather than what is wrong. Instead of, "Don't touch me there like that," a more constructive approach is, "I love it when you touch me softer, like this." This positive framing prevents partners from feeling criticized or defensive and keeps the exploration feeling like a joyful discovery rather than a correction of faults. Ultimately, the science gives us a map of the human body, but communication is the compass that guides two people through their unique shared territory. It is the mechanism that translates cold, hard data into warm, lived experience. It acknowledges that the most powerful sexual organ is the brain, and the most effective aphrodisiac is feeling heard, understood, and valued. Therefore, to truly leverage any scientifically proven position, one must first master the scientifically proven foundation of all healthy sexual relationships: open, honest, and ongoing communication. It is the irreplaceable element that breathes life into technique, transforming a mechanical action into an intimate dialogue of mutual pleasure and connection. Without it, the best position is just a geometry problem. With it, it becomes a path to profound shared discovery. The mind-body connection, the pursuit of orgasm, is often treated as a purely physical endeavor, focusing solely on nerve endings, anatomical positioning, and mechanical technique. However, a vast body of scientific research in the fields of psychoneuroendocrinology and sexual medicine reveals a far more complex picture. The mind is not a passive spectator in the process of arousal and climax. It is the central command center. The brain is the ultimate arbiter of sexual response, capable of amplifying physical sensation to incredible heights or, conversely, shutting it down completely regardless of perfect physical stimulation. Understanding this mind-body synergy is not just complementary to understanding anatomy, it is fundamental. This connection is rooted in our evolutionary biology. For humans, particularly for females, the ability to relax and feel safe is a neurological prerequisite for sexual arousal. This is governed by the autonomic nervous system, which has two primary states: the sympathetic fight or flight, and the parasympathetic rest and digest, or feed and breed. Orgasm is a parasympathetic process. It requires the body to feel safe enough to shift away from a state of hyper-vigilance and into a state of receptivity and relaxation. If the mind perceives any form of threat, anxiety, or distraction, the sympathetic nervous system remains dominant. directly inhibiting the physiological processes necessary for arousal and orgasm. Performance anxiety is one of the most common and potent manifestations of this mind-body barrier, when the goal of sex becomes making her climax as a measure of success. It introduces a cognitive pressure that is anathema to the letting go required for orgasm. The brain shifts from being a receiver of pleasure to an evaluator of performance. Thoughts like, "Is this working? Am I taking too long?" Or, "He must be getting bored," are mental distractions that pull conscious awareness away from physical sensation and into a state of self-monitoring, effectively severing the connection between body and mind. Conversely, emotional intimacy acts as a powerful catalyst for the parasympathetic nervous system. Feelings of trust, security, and emotional connection with a partner stimulate the release of oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone or love hormone. Oxytocin promotes feelings of calm, safety, and attachment, creating the ideal psychological environment for the body to relax and become receptive to pleasure. This is why a sense of emotional safety with a partner can dramatically enhance physical sensation and the ability to achieve orgasm. The state of mindfulness, or being fully present in the moment, is another critical component. Orgasm requires a convergence of attention on the sensory experience. A mind preoccupied with a to-do list, body image insecurities, or external worries is a mind that is divided. Practices that cultivate mindfulness, focusing on the breath, the sounds in the room, or the specific sensations on the skin, help to quiet the cognitive chatter and anchor consciousness in the body. This allows for a fuller, more intense experience of physical touch, building the neural momentum necessary for climax. The impact of past experiences and cultural conditioning also plays a profound role through the mind. Societal messages that frame female sexuality as taboo or shameful can create deep-seated psychological blocks. Similarly, previous negative sexual experiences can establish neural pathways of caution and defense. The brain, acting to protect the individual, can subconsciously inhibit arousal in situations that trigger these associations, even if the current partner is loving and safe. Overcoming this requires consciously creating new, positive experiences that can slowly rewire those neural associations. Sensation itself is constructed in the brain. The nerves in the clitoris and vagina send electrical signals, but it is the brain's somatosensory cortex that interprets these signals and decides whether they are pleasurable, neutral, or painful. This interpretation is highly malleable and is influenced by context, emotion, and mental state. The exact same physical touch can feel intensely pleasurable in a context of desire and safety and feel irritating or uncomfortable in a context of stress or disconnection. The brain is not a passive receiver of data, it is an active interpreter. This is why fantasy and mental arousal are so potent for many people. Engaging the imagination can directly stimulate the brain's pleasure centers, priming the body for physical touch. A thought or a fantasy can trigger physiological responses like increased blood flow to the genitals, lubrication, and heightened sensitivity. This demonstrates that the brain can initiate the physical process of arousal entirely on its own, proving its role as the master conductor of the sexual response system. The placebo effect, well documented in medicine, also has a powerful role in sexuality. Belief itself can alter physiology. If a woman believes that a certain position or technique is scientifically proven to work, her expectation and belief can actually heighten her sensitivity and responsiveness to that technique. This isn't to say the science is invalid, but rather that the mental expectation works in concert with the physical action, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of anticipation and response that can greatly enhance the likelihood of success. Therefore, the environment and atmosphere become practical extensions of the mind-body connection, creating a setting that promotes mental relaxation. A clean, private space, dim lighting, soothing music is not merely about setting a mood in a romantic sense. It is a practical strategy for downregulating the nervous system. It sends a signal to the brain that the environment is safe, allowing it to permission the body to move into a state of parasympathetic dominance where pleasure is possible. Ultimately, this understanding should be liberating. It moves the responsibility for orgasm away from being a solely physical task and distributes it across the entire spectrum of the relationship and the individual's mental state. It emphasizes that foreplay is not just a physical prelude, but a psychological one, encompassing everything from a kind word during the day to the creation of a safe and trusting environment. In conclusion, while science can provide the optimal physical roadmap for climax via specific positions, the mind holds the key to the vehicle. The most perfectly executed coital alignment technique will be ineffective on a body whose nervous system is locked in a state of anxiety or distraction. True sexual mastery, therefore, involves the dual expertise of understanding the external anatomy of the body and the internal landscape of the mind, recognizing that they are inextricably linked in the dance of arousal and the ultimate release of orgasm.